to SLEERICKETS, a podcast about poetry and other intractable problems. My name is Alice. I am helping Matthew out again this week. We're about to dive into our 7th round of Listener Crit. What happens in these episodes is that very kind, very brave listeners send in short poems. I think the limit is 25 lines to Matthew. You can do this if you are a subscriber to The Secret Show. And we critique them on air. We do not say the name of the poet. It is an anonymous critique. And because of that, that means we can be just really honest and frank with you and hopefully help make your poem better. I know for me, whenever I listen to these episodes and the couple of times I've helped out with them, you can hear the trick-or-treaters. So I said we didn't do Halloween here in Australia. But some kids really do. Some kids do. You've got to, there's a whole protocol. Your house has to be decorated in a particular way. And, well, it has to be decorated. Otherwise, you don't go near that house. So no one's coming to our house because I don't have a box of Cadbury Favourites to hand out. I'm sitting here recording this. But the trick-or-treaters are out and they're so excited and it's extremely cute. Anyway, so that's the squealing you can hear in the background is the few Fitzroy North trick-or-treaters with their mums and dads in tow. What was I saying? So you send in your poem and we critique it. It's anonymous. We are frank with you. We try to improve your poem. And I always find that doing these episodes and listening to these episodes really helps me a lot. So you're doing a public service. I suspect it's true for a lot of other people that listen. It just, I don't know, just helps to hear this stuff because so much of poetry feedback is like, wow, it's so good. I really liked the bit where you did this and it reminds me of this other thing, blah, blah, blah. You've been in that workshop. I've been in that workshop. We have all been in that workshop. Nobody needs to do that anymore. We do a better job here. So that's what we're doing in this episode. Before we get into that, big, massive, gigantic news. Elijah Blumov of Versecraft, you know him, you love him. The man got onto Jeopardy. He got onto Jeopardy, which to me sounds a little bit like he went to Mars or something. Like, I don't understand how this is a possible thing that a human being can do. I mean, I know that thousands of people do it every year, but also it must be really, really hard to get on Jeopardy and to be on Jeopardy. I mean, I would just be weak-kneed at the sight of Ken Jennings, But he did it. He went on Jeopardy. He repped for us. He spread the word about Ryan Wilson and one Matthew Buckley Smith and I think other things. I haven't actually seen it yet because Australia. It's going to take a little while for me to actually see the episode, but I have seen screen grabs and I have seen a very hilarious bio written by someone else about Elijah. All this is in the Secret Show chat. But yeah, holy shit, Jeopardy. Elijah was on Jeopardy. So check it out if you didn't already. Fame, actual fame. If you have not done so yet, you don't have a choice. You must also go and pre-order Brian's book, The Optimists. I ordered my copy from Readings Carlton, Melbourne's best bookshop, definitely Melbourne's best poetry selection. And I mean, maybe I'll just host a reading from The Optimists at Readings and just take questions and just pretend that I'm Brian's agent or something like that. I don't know. I'm still thinking about ideas, Brian, about how we can promote this book over here. I'm blue sky solutioneering at this point. I hope you enjoy this episode. I hope you get a lot out of it. I did. The Secret Show is wacky as hell, as always. I'll tell you more about that at the end. How are you?
I'm doing all right. A new season of Selling Sunset just went up, so
Oh my
Joanne
God.
was very excited. We saw the first part of an episode. It's just so far from any reality that's even remotely recognizable. I truly, like, I can't believe I don't find it plausible that the cast has like nipples under their clothes. Like
No,
they just seem like
no,
I don't. Yeah, none of
no
it is.
nipples, no nipples,
Was
no, no underwear.
is it Whitman? Is it who is the nothing that is human is alien to me? Or I mean,
Yeah, it sounds like Whitman. It's got
yeah,
to be.
like nothing. I read there is nothing. Everything is alien to me. Nothing is human. I don't I see nothing. All of it is
Oh, good.
beyond me.
Well, I think that we're maybe going to get to something like that in the series, so
Yes.
hopefully.
Yeah.
I don't have
How
Netflix,
about
so I
you?
don't get to watch. I don't get to watch Selling Sunset.
It's really terrible. So
Yeah, no,
don't.
it's real bad. It's real
Yeah.
bad. It's really up. It's really up there for bad.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I've had just like the quietest month work-wise in I don't know, maybe 5 years, and it just came right after I had like one of my best months. So I was like, everything's fixed. I've got these new people on the books. People I already knew were coming to me for work. I was like, I'm sitting pretty. And then just silence. And so I've been doing the thing we talked about with Brian, where I just send out like 3 emails a day, just cold, and nothing has come back for like a month. So
And you're
I
doing
feel a
because in
bit
the
lonely.
past you've worked as like part of like large government grants and programs and
Yeah,
things.
yeah. Because I kind of hit a wall like this in about 2021 when the hiring market was much, much better than it is now. So it was easy for me to just hop into a really sweet part-time gig at this cancer hospital. And then I sort of moved around in that place for about 3.5 years. And it was perfect because it was always part-time. I always had time to do this. I always had time to write poems, but I also always had money. And so I didn't have to really worry. And yeah, now I'm kind of like, okay, well, I should probably try to find something like that again. But the 2025 hiring market is really different because people had
Yeah,
a lot more money back like 3 or 4 years ago. And now
yeah,
everybody that they hired, they're like, oh, we don't have the money to keep you, which is what happened with my role. Like the organization just
right.
kind of collapsed and everybody got fired, not just me. So
So you're
yeah.
do is this I don't know. I mean, I don't even know how this would work in Australia. But like, are you applying? Are you doing like individual freelance solicitation
Yeah,
or
yeah, just
okay?
like emailing out to the kind of organizations that I've worked for before and being like, "Hey, I've helped these people. Maybe I could help you."
Well,
But
tell people
yeah.
what it is you actually do because if you know,
Oh
if
man.
it's getting some word out for freelance work for
Yeah,
Alice.
please. Stuff I can do. I can read your poem. I can make it better. I can read your manuscript and make it better. I can edit your manuscript. I can proofread anything you want. I can write copy about anything, literally anything. I can make it sound good. Fuck, I'll write your social media if you want. I mean, if you want that. I don't think anyone wants that anymore, but like,
I saw a
I'll
who
do
was
anything.
I saw somebody looking for that. I may yeah might have a lead on that actually for you, but
Oh, nice. Anything to do with
yeah.
words, if you can't be bothered, or if you have been working on it for so long that you can't see it anymore, then I can do it. I'll give you mates rates. I just need to be making any money because like $30 an hour is better than zero, right? So I'll do anything. Yeah, thanks for letting me pitch
Um,
myself.
yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. I'm very
I'm
quick. I've
gonna
never missed a deadline. I'm like super fucking fast. Matthew knows. So
I'm
yeah.
gonna forward this to you.
Oh, thanks.
But
Gee, glad I
yeah,
mentioned it.
a podcast I listen to is looking for a social media person.
Oh,
I've been soliciting or querying agents all day.
how is it going?
Miserable. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Are you
They all want
getting
yeah.
responses?
I've gotten a couple. I mean, I've gotten like so I'm trying to make sure this actually is sent to you. Okay, I think it actually is sent now. Yeah, I've gotten a couple responses, a couple actual rejections, which is nice at this point because most don't bother to reject a manuscript request and a partial manuscript request, and then somebody who just like wanted more details, which is like, well, okay, all right. What would we be talking about here?
And did you end up going with the gender non-specific version of yourself for this round?
I'm doing all of the above. So
Okay.
I'm querying a lot of people. And so
Okay.
I'm doing some, it's not the pure Brian style. I still like, I can't quite bring myself to tell an outright lie.
Mm.
So it's sort of like I'm very, very distantly bending the truth in a couple of cases, but yeah, I'm doing well, that was the thing. Basically, like this woman today who like wrote right back to ask for more information. Basically, like what happened was I sent her a Brian style query, and
Oh,
she wrote back asking for a normal style query. Like so, then I was like, send me the things that were not in this that I would normally ask for, that I in fact do ask for in my submission. So I mean, that she wrote back suggests like maybe there was some interest there, but I don't know.
yeah, like
Yeah.
usually, like why would you bother to do that if there was zero interest? So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the hope, but it's a ton of, yeah, it doesn't look great.
Mm.
But yeah, we'll see.
Fun, fun,
Um,
fun.
yeah, I was the thought I was having looking over these poems for this evening was that I've been doing too much writing and not enough reading lately. So
Okay. Hmm.
I'm eager to not write anything for a couple weeks at least and just try to read it a lot. Unfortunately, most of what I'm going to be reading is going to be conference papers, but some of those will probably be good.
Okay. Because you got to do the whole panel thing where you've all read each other's work, but
Terrible
nobody really
design. You all
talks
read each
about
other's work.
it.
Yeah, you all read each other's work. Nobody, nobody else reads it. Then everybody does another smaller presentation, and then you run out of time. And so there was no point in you reading it, and nobody else read it. And then you had to write basically one long paper and one short paper. Yeah,
Sounds
that's how
great.
it's going to go. That's how I don't know. Elijah tells me it's going to be different. Be different, Elijah. It's feeling the same. So the difference is that I do like the people in this panel. Like it's like a
Yeah.
panel full of people I like. So that's
Mm.
good. That's
Mm.
something.
Yeah.
But
And maybe there'll
you
be people
know,
in the audience that like know you and that'll be a bit more interesting,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah. No, I mean, like I at least am looking forward to talking to some of them. One of the panels I'm on is like a bunch of people we're friends with, and
Cool.
then one of the panels is a bunch of Shakespeare scholars. They are gonna fucking hate me, but David Yezi's there, so he's usually nice to me.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, I mean he's very he was asked, he's running a panel. He asked me to do it, but yeah, I'm tired of writing. I want to read more. Yeah, my brain feels like hot in a bad way.
Like the fan is on full.
Yeah. Like it's like it's been doing too much like BitTorrent streaming and not it's like I don't know what computers need to do. It needs to go into sleep mode or something. I probably need to go into sleep mode as well, but
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, in the interest of that, let's dive into one of these poems because I've got
yeah,
questions for you at the end about something
yeah, yeah,
completely
yeah, yeah,
different.
yeah. I'm interested. I have thoughts, and I'm curious
Yeah.
about your questions.
Great, great. Okay. Which one should we do first?
Maybe missive.
Yeah, that seems like a slightly easier one to tackle. I was really pleased with both of these
Yeah,
as poems to give feedback on. They both feel like they have quite a bit of potential and
yeah,
also like easy improvements that can be made. So big thanks
yes,
to S and to Q for actually sending in the poems. Very brave.
yeah. I don't know why anybody would click on. I guess this will be listener crit number 7 without looking at any of the previous ones. But in case you have missed all of the previous installments, how would you characterize this sub series?
It's poetry feedback, but honest and good.
Yeah. And
And
anonymous. Yeah.
and anonymous.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If you would like to send in a poem, go to sleerickets.substack.com, sign up for the secret show, and send in a poem, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. I feel like this is one of the 10 great sub shows that is within the Slee Ricketts family of shows. I think it could be like its own spin-off series because it just never ever happens that you get honest critical feedback that has your interests in mind but is not trying to make you feel like you're some sort of secret genius. We're
Yeah,
not here to flatter anyone. We're here to like actually make the poems better. So that's very
yeah.
rare.
So yeah, and thank you to we were going with the initials S and Q for this episode, and yeah, thank you for sending these in. I know it takes some courage to get to expose yourself to public evaluation in this way. So
Hmm.
we're grateful.
Do you want to read Missive?
Sure. This is Missive by S. The shoots poke through the cracks, expand. The stone and rock turn into sand. Fall leaves rotten turn to mud. Vines creep up and flowers bud. Cinder blocks sink into the ground. The shingles fade without a sound. The water seeps through lines and holes. It coaxes out the moss and molds. I write to you with pen and scraps of paper here as things collapse. I hope this finds you cozy, curled up in your corner of the world.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I have a poem very like this one. And I always find after I listen to you critique these that I rush back to my drafts and fix a bunch of things. So I'm excited to get into this one. I have suggestions on the order that things happen in, and then I have metrical questions, and I actually just rewrote the whole thing as well. So I don't know where you want to start.
Well, yeah. So first, when you say you have a poem that's a lot like this, what is the likeness?
Um, I realized that all poems that are like this are children of Dorothy Parker's resume.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
guess I ended up writing something similar to that, where I was just doing like a list of sort of natural processes of degradation and the way things just go wrong in nature in a very like value free way, if that makes sense. Like there's no like
Yeah.
malignancy and or sort of maliciousness there. It's just
Yeah.
like entropy poem.
Yeah. There's a Hardy poem called "The Subalterns,"
Oh, okay.
which is where he basically has a conversation with all these different aspects of nature, which are like, we didn't want to give you smallpox, we just had to because we're nature. And he's like, it's okay, guys.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, this is so Dorothy Parker's resume, which is the great little epigram about suicide. It's so short, I may just read it real quickly. Is a priamel. So it's a list of alternatives, and then she ends by telling you the right answer. So one of the poems I brought to the kids last week was Sappho's Fragment 16, which is in Sherrod Santos' translation. If I can remember, it goes, some say the site of ramparts fronted by cavalry, others say is the site of foot soldiers forming ranks, still others say the heart thrills to no spectacle more than a fleet of warships churning the wine-dark waters white. I say the presence of what you love is best. So it's not this, but this. It's a primal structure. So resume is by Dorothy Parker is razors pain you, rivers are damp, acids stain you, and drugs cause cramp. Guns aren't lawful, nooses give, gas smells awful, you might as well live. So not this, not this, but that, right? And I tell you the thing that's different. So I would say the structure of this one and the structure of what you described are slightly different.
Yeah, I think
They're
that's right,
closer to the
actually.
structure
Yeah.
of Elizabeth Bishop's Insomnia, which is basically a series of parallels. So it's saying this and this and this and this, And so you're then creating a likeness among things that we might think are unlike by pointing out that they have in common this quality, slash you're commenting self-deprecatingly on yourself by saying like by continuing to be in love with you, or like I am basically like leaves rotting on the ground. It's a sort of like it suggests a couple of things. So the bishop poem goes, the moon in the bureau mirror looks out a million miles, and perhaps with pride at herself, but she never smiles, far and away beyond sleep, or perhaps she's a daytime sleeper. I fucked up the rhyme there. Far and away beyond sleep, or perhaps she's a daytime sleeper. By the universe deserted, she'd tell it to go to hell, and she'd find a body of water or a mirror on which to dwell. So wrap up care in a cobweb and drop it down the well. And then she describes this the through the looking glass land. Okay, so through the looking glass land is, you know, the land reflected in the well is into that world inverted, where left is always right, where the shadows are really the body, where we stay awake all night, where the heavens are shallow as the sea is now deep, and you love me.
Mm.
Right. It's a list of things that aren't true. Right. And so then it's that last turn to the you that kind of creates the poignancy. So this is not, doesn't have that same like piquant quality, but it's a similar sort of, it's a series of parallels of things happening. It sounds like yours may be more of a commentary, and this one feels like it may be more of a mood game, but it's a similar, they're what all of these have in common is they're litanies.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
But the
Mm-hmm.
question is sort of how are the different items in the litany operating on one another?
Yes. And my first suggestion would be to rearrange the order that things happen
So
in.
if, yeah, so if we're building to or descending to what I do, it's a list of what inanimate objects do, or what, you know, plants and things do. And then we end with what I'm doing as I write to you. What should the motion up to that be? And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like you have a thought about what that sweep should look like building up to that.
Yeah, well, only because there are seasonal suggestions in some of these lines. So it makes sense to me to start with the fall leaves, particularly if you're going to keep it as fall leaves rotten, which I would probably suggest that you just change that to rotten leaves.
Yeah, I have a thought about it. Yeah.
Yeah. But so my thought was you start with the fall leaves, then the vines and flowers budding, and then you would go to the shoots poking through, and then to the stone and rock turning into sand, just because it felt jarring to go from the shoots poking through, which is like a springtime
Mm-hmm.
image, then
Yeah, yeah.
back into fall.
You do sometimes have some like truly, you know, the old dead leaves that are rotting as the spring stuff is coming through. But you're right, it does throw our sense of what season we're in and what the order of things is. Are we
Hmm.
talking about new life, or are we talking about decay? Or are we just talking about things that happen naturally? But yeah, you what you don't want is to present a litany of things in which the later items seem obvious or seem like a letdown,
Yeah.
or seem confusing, right? You want there to be some kind of escalation, some kind of heightening or expansion, or it's just some new, whether it's a syntactical development. It doesn't just feel like, oh, we could just see where this is going.
Yeah, and that's a good point actually. All these items are fairly parallel, aren't they? There's not really any escalation. Things are not getting worse or more extreme in any way.
Yeah, and so yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad you were looking at it through this lens, because it's funny. Like I ended up looking at it almost purely through a tonal and linguistic lens. But I
Hmm.
think you're right that if you're going to bother to do a lot of natural description and description of a landscape, you need to be concerned with what you're actually describing and why. What are we getting at here? Because it isn't clear, other than there being small changes happening, and a lot of those changes, but not all of them, seem to be, well, no, it doesn't even necessarily seem like it's all decay. It's like there are little natural changes. It does seem like there's seasonal changes. There's just time passing.
Yeah, like flowers are budding. That it's all kind of culminating for me in as things collapse. But a
Right.
flower budding is not a collapse, nor is a vine creeping up.
Yeah, or a shoot poking through. The shoot poking through is through the cracks in the stone. Like that's famously a symbol of like renewal, rebirth. Like yeah, new hope. So yeah, the first thought I had reading this was you have a choice right at the outset when you call a poem missive. You're not calling it letter, right? And they're different words, but they're pretty close synonyms. What I'm trying to see is there. Yeah, I think it's really just Latin versus. Well, they're both Latin. So one comes from letter like of the alphabet, and one comes from being sent, sending something. But they're different registers. Letter feels more familiar, more casual, more informal. Missive seems a little loftier, a little more serious. Or it's self-mocking, right? Like your line, the line in your poem I talked about the other week, right? Tonight we vandalize the edifice of sacred, right? Or it's using a self-consciously high register in order to mock itself. So
Yeah.
it right away it feels like it doesn't mean this is good, bad, or otherwise as a title. It just means that you're setting up certain tensions with regard to register and the tone you're taking with your own project.
Yep.
So I then got really caught up in this, like with both of these poems, actually, I have the feeling sometimes I get when Ryan sends me a draft of something, which is I don't know if you had as a kid, they're terrible. And the truth is like, I was never good at them. But when I mess with a poem that is pretty well made, but it feels like it's a little off.
I know what you're going to describe.
Those little, you know, those little tile games?
Tile puzzle.
But they're little kind of sticky but loose plastic tiles, and there's one missing, and you have to shift them around, and it's hard to get them to move right.
Like my brother would just pop the whole thing out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Just pop them out and just smack them back in. Right. I was never good at doing those, but I sometimes have that feeling when I'm kind of messing with the poems where like, it wouldn't take that much to just shift this around a little bit. So yeah, like it's when you're writing in Demeter, and we should say this is in Demeter, it is for the most part in iambic Demeter, but when it's Demeter, it sort of stops mattering quite as much. So like it's not hard to do a headless line. Vines creep up, cinder blocks, right? You can't really cinder block sync. You need to break before sync, right? Because you have two stressed syllables there. Dung dung, cinder blocks. So the key is you have two stressed syllables per line. For the most part, it's an iambic pattern. It's not always, but it's a pretty tight little poem. All of the rhymes are true except for holes and molds.
Yes, that's a tough one.
Yeah, to my ear, I feel like, well, it's so close, and all the others are exactly true. And you have a lot, and the other thing is like with this poem, you have a lot of these rhymes are not just true, but they have compound consonants, or they're feminine, which is harder, right? Both of which are harder. So expand, sand, mud and bud, that's a simple straight ahead masculine rhyme. Ground and sound, there's still the nd, it's a familiar rhyme, but it's the compound consonant. Holes and molds, you have 2 out of 3 consonant sounds match, but not the middle one. Scraps and collapse is lovely, and part of the reason I like that so much is that you're rhyming across parts of speech, you're rhyming across spelling conventions, you're rhyming, I want to say across etymologies, and you're rhyming across syllable count, right? So you have a longer, so it's just like, but that coincidence in the midst of seeming chaos is really pleasing when that happens to fall together. And you put the longer word second, which is more satisfying to our ear.
Absolutely. I'm laughing because now that you've done a few of these Listen Crit episodes and you've said all that a few times, I now go through that tick list in my head. It's like, okay, different part of speech, longer word second. Yeah, it's just,
and they don't, and you don't have to do all of those things. I'm just saying it's sort of, they all contribute to a kind of a pleasure. Yeah, but then the other trouble you really run into with Demeter is syntactical repetition. It's very easy to start compressing sense enough that it becomes a little bit unclear, or it seems to suggest things that it doesn't mean. Even the shoots poke through the cracks. That it's two definite articles starts to make me feel like there's something about that I. There's something about not that there's not the letter I, but there's something about that view that feels. I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something about the presumptuousness of that. The two definite articles, that suggest there's an alreadiness to the view there that I feel like rings slightly false to my ear. But more importantly, you run into problems of syntax. So
Yeah, absolutely.
the shoots poke through the cracks, expand. Period. The stone and rock. But I think what almost wants to happen there, again, if you can, especially when it's happening at a line break, if you're using a verb that can be transitive or intransitive, it is almost always a stronger choice to use it transitively. And if you use it in a place where it is even set up to suggest that it's going to be used transitively, and then to stop short right at a line break, it feels like we're slamming on the brakes right as we've gotten going. The stone and rock turn into sand. Fall leaves rotten. So fall leaves rotten, comma, turn to mud. To me, that's like, when in doubt, verbs are stronger than adjectives. To me, the obvious correction is fall leaves rot and turn to sand.
Yeah.
And you can shift the and to the next line if you want, but then you're not having to create these little caesuras in the middle of the line, and you're able to keep the motion going. You do run into trouble already by having those two items in the list both use the verb turn. But yeah, I mean, I think partly you're going to have to do some thinking about Alice's observation about sort of what order are we putting these in and why? What is it we're describing? What are we building to? What are we saying about what we're building to implicitly? And so how do we want to put these together? There are some then problems I have with the water. Again, the definite article with the water feels just, my instinct there is that the might actually want to be an adjective. There's some kind of adjective there that could work. That feels stronger to my ear intuitively.
You were saying before that you have more opportunity to write a headless line in Demeter. Is there any disadvantage to just saying water seeps?
No, I think that's better than the water seeps. Yeah,
Okay,
I
cool.
think that's better. Yeah. I actually was going to cut the before shingles as well.
Yeah.
Though shingles fade without a sound feels like you got a couple problems there. One is the shingles fade like they lose their color, which I guess you sort of know. Yeah, I mean they get bleached out in the sun. Feels a little bit like, who fucking cares. But
It's, it's a
but
bit
also
too
like
specific.
it also feels like there's definitely, after the line break, we definitely don't need then a whole line devoted to telling us that happens without a sound. Like, does it? Like, of course it does. Like, why would there be sound? Why would that?
Well, that's there for ground. But yes,
Yeah, yeah, no,
it's a
yeah.
good
That's
point.
why it's
Yeah.
there, but it does. But it's not. It's sort of. It's a placebo
Mm.
phrase in
Mm.
the line. The water seeps through lines and holes. There you have these. You have twice in quick succession through lines and holes, and with pen and scraps. You have a kind of a false zeugma, where
What's a Zugma?
so zeugma means it comes from the Greek word for yoke, I believe, and it's when you use two you use a word to link two words together in such a way, usually as to play on words somehow. So, tip your hat on your waiter, right? Like, which is not very
Oh,
good, but
okay.
like you're using the same verb to refer to two objects. It doesn't have to be a verb or an object, but you can use it with different parts of speech. But one of them is usually a received phrase that has a figurative meaning, and one of them is literal. But you link them together. You have a little bit of a false zeugma here. It's not a play on words, but the water seeps through lines and holes.
Mm.
It if line I mean lines for me, it took me a second to read. I had to read holes before I understood how you meant lines, assuming you mean like water lines,
Yeah,
I guess,
I still don't know what that
like
would be.
like pi- piping underground pipes,
Oh, okay.
and holes. But then the through it's different kinds of through, right? the through is sort of means different things. Similarly, I write to you with pen and scraps feels like it for one thing, like we don't, it feels a little bit like unnecessary information. And for another, it feels like the with is a little bit falsely, it's like a false parallel construction with those two. So something to me just, it feels like my grammatical instinct is that those are unsatisfying linkages structurally. Um, as things collapse. So yeah, what about the ending? I have a couple thoughts.
Yeah.
Like, what about with the end? So we go through our litany of things happening in the natural world and in the semi-natural man-made world. Changes, time passes, things decay, things grow, and then we arrive at, I write to you with pen and scraps of paper here as things collapse. I hope this finds you cozy, curled up in your corner of the world.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how long S has been listening to the show, but probably by this point, S, it won't surprise you that when I rewrote this poem, I wanted it to end with things collapsing. I think I think that you you wanna go like this. I hope this finds you cozy curled in your corner of the world. I write to you among the scraps, and I changed it completely and said something like, I love you still as things collapse. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
want to end with the collapse because that's me. But maybe you want to end
Yeah.
on cozy because you're a nicer person.
Yeah. I cozy feels maybe a little cute, curled up in your corner. I mean, I think unfortunately, colloquially, curled up feels more natural than curled in your corner. The problem for me is that when I hear, especially because the line break is, I hope this finds line break, you cozy curled line break, up in your corner line break of the world. When I hear up in physical location, I hear Black American slang, right? Like up in here, like up
Yeah.
in this house, and
Mm.
it's hard not to hear that construction there as sort of like taking on a funny voice in this one moment.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hear that, but I just see those lines as straining far too hard to get that curled world rhyme. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
world is a tough rhyming word.
World's tough. World is a self, right? World and self are
Mm-hmm.
the two.
Mm-hmm. It's a
You can go for
love.
furled. You can go like I've gone for elf, but like for the most part, we're going to get a lot of shelf and a lot of fur curled,
The
right?
way,
That tends to
yeah,
be the rule.
the way Matthew gets to that elf too, it's worth looking at because very, very, very fucking good.
That's it. What I'm doing is it's just a trick I stole from 1,000 A. Stallings poems.
Ah, okay. Well,
You
no
set up
credit
a
then for
slightly
you. No
unusual.
credit.
Yeah, no. Like you basically like you set up a slightly unusual. Like you do basically like you're covering your tracks. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to have to use a slightly unusual word to get the form to work, and usually it's at the end of the line.
Mm.
And so in anticipation of that, you create a context that makes it sound as if it's coming naturally.
I might read that poem in the outro just to torture you, just so people
Sure,
can
yeah,
hear it. Yeah.
that's that's fine. I read that poem. That was I was like I realized as I was reading to these kids at High Point that my poems are all horribly depressing, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, these poems are so dark." And I read that poem, which begins with a suicide,
Yeah,
and
it's
then
probably one of the darker ones.
I kind of got to the end of the reading, and a girl raised her hand, and I said, "Oh, what's your question?" She said, "Could you read some of those dark poems you were talking about?" It's like, well, fucking, what do you? I don't think I have anything darker than that. That
That's
was it.
pretty,
That was
it's pretty up there.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
getting distracted. Yes. So I would want to end on collapse, but what were your thoughts on the ending?
Yeah. I like the as things collapse feels like in some respects that's the heart of the poem.
Yep.
Like
100%. Gotta
like
be.
that's the thematic heart of the poem.
Gotta be.
There's kind of emotionally this is directed to a person, and it would be a much colder poem if there were no you in it. But it basically like it's a I had talked about two poems I really like, both called A Letter, one by Anthony Hecht and one by Donald Justice, and
Mm.
they work differently, but I mean, and the Justice one is much darker and finally probably colder, but the Hecht poem is sort of a poem about basically saying like I have no real right to write you, It's not like
Yes.
it's not really becoming. It's not suitable. I shouldn't be doing it. There are bigger things happening. There's bigger things happening in both of our lives, and yet here I find myself writing to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that I can't get around it. And it feels like there's a little bit of that here. There's a little bit of the Dirty Projectors song, Irresponsible tune, like
Mm.
look at all the shit happening in the world, and I still just kind of want to think about you. So there's which is partly which again is an inoculation, right? It's a way of saying like, yeah, I know, but also you.
Yeah.
You're what I'm thinking about, which I like. I mean, that's the emotional argument, right? The emotional argument is like I'm gonna inoculate you against thinking this is sentimental, in order to get to say the really naked sentimental thing that I want to say,
Yeah.
which is great. I mean, that's how lyric poems often work. It does feel as if like we get a lot of description and even like over description of very, very, very simple processes. We get some like unnecessary statements of things that go without saying, like without a sound. We get 3 lines to say what one of the lines already says. So I write to you with pen and scraps of paper here, right? All of, like I write to you. So like
Mm-hmm.
that's,
Mm-hmm.
with pen and scraps of paper here, even here is sort of like, well, none of that is, all of this is goes without saying, or is sort of like is redundant. And then as things collapse is like, feels rushed. So I feel like I don't think you need to give like a zoomed out vision of the whole universe, because this is also sort of like if you wrote Fall of Rome backwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Auden poem. Like if you started with the little speckled birds and the reindeer, and then you described them for a while, and at the very end you said like, oh, and then Rome fell.
Mm.
So it has a little bit of that quality to it, but it feels like it's so quick. It seems. I think the risk is not that you. I don't think you need to explain more. I think the risk right now is that it seems glib.
Yeah, and I just was thinking maybe as an exercise, what S could do is just as they're going out about in the world, just keep a little list of these kinds of processes, whether you want it to be all natural processes or some kind of with man-made objects, like examples of collapse and decay, because these are all pretty simple, like you just said, and there's so much opportunity to include things that we may not have thought of. So that's just an idea. Because I do think I did want to say that I do really like this structure. And I think that however many lines S takes to get up to the emotional reveal is like just about right. Like I think the length is good. I think that there's like structurally it's sound. It's like we want to take all the cladding off, but underneath there's like a pretty good set of beams and joists there.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think this you could do a little renovation on this and it would be
Yeah.
quite strong.
Yeah.
I assume maybe incorrectly, just based on the shape and the texture of this poem, I assume that S already knows the poem Obad, not the Larkin, which is great, but the Bill Coyle one. It's a little Demeter poem.
Okay.
I kind of assume, my guess is that this person already knows that poem, but if not, you definitely take a look. And then I would also just look at Kevin Young's circa Jelly Roll, because he just wrote a ton of little like Manometer and Demeter, these little deadly tiny descriptive poems. A lot of it's set in a kind of like, it's in the South, so it's sort of like semi-rural, but it gets a lot of nature in there along with some sort of town, small city stuff. And it has a similar, and it's very like plaintive. Like it's sort of like a lot of it has a sort of a terrible little aching love poem quality. So I feel like
Mm.
he would jelly roll. It's too, I mean, as with all of Kevin Young, it's like he published too many things. It's too much, but he has a very distinctive texture and sound in that book that is really pleasing and that feels like it would be an interesting place to look as well.
Would it be worth me reading my little rewrite, or did you want to say more things?
I think I think I said all my things, but yeah, I'd love to hear your rewrite.
Okay, with apologies, because this is not what you asked me to do, S, but sometimes I just can't help myself. So I did it like
And the
this.
good news is you can always tell us to go fuck
Yeah,
ourselves and
go
just keep
fuck
the poem the way
yourself,
you want it.
Alice. What
Like
do
yeah,
you know? Sounds now it sounds Australian. How horrible. No, no. So I just kind of
Put
rearranged
some
it.
kangaroos in,
Ah,
put some
put some brews
kookaburras.
in, a platy. The rotten leaves turn into mud. The vines creep up, the flowers bud. The shoots poke through, the cracks expand. The stone and rock turn into sand. Foundations sink into the ground. The paintwork fades without a sound. The water seeps through lines and holes, coaxing out the moss and molds. I hope this finds you cozy curled in your corner of the world. I write these lines among the scraps and think of you as things collapse. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make it even more Alice Allen. I just want to cut that stanza now where it says, "I hope this finds you cozy curled." That's
Cool.
just
Yeah,
just say that you're thinking of this person. I think that's enough.
yeah. Well, yeah, and just for whatever it's worth, like if you choose part of the reason you choose adjectives is for Venn diagram, like by virtue of Venn diagram overlap, right? You probably don't want adjectives that totally contradict each other in a way that's going to be confusing, but you also don't want adjectives that cover basically the same ground.
Mm-hmm.
And if you imagine somebody curled up in a corner,
They're
then
cozy.
it doesn't, they're not necessarily cozy, but we're going to be 0% surprised if they're cozy.
They're cozy,
You
yeah.
can pick another adjective that'll just sort of give that a little bit more flesh. The other thought I have, just because we've been dealing with a lot of like obnoxious plumbing problems lately,
It's not fun.
is and I don't my instinct is to say Tom would know, because I feel like with all questions like masculine competence, Tom is a good source, is a good authority.
I don't know about
Um,
that.
but my instinct is when water seeps through lines and holes, it does not coax out the moss and molds. It cultivates them. Like it makes them grow more,
Yeah,
not less.
this is one that I would probably just retire that whole image and just go out into the world and find something that's easier, more, I guess, surprising. Because this is surprising, but probably more, it's confusing. It just raises a lot of questions.
Yeah, I mean, the water could coax out something or flush. That water using coaxes for flushing something out has a pleasing quality. Like there's something
Yeah,
about that rings kind of true. It's just that
yeah,
the specific description you're offering feels like it doesn't. It's not true.
yeah. Like even
Um,
inviting out, but
yeah.
that's not even quite what it does. I mean, it.
Yeah, I mean, it just
Mm,
they just when water is when you like blast water through something, you can flush it out with high
mm.
pressure. But if water's seeping through cracks and things, like it's more stuff is going to grow, not less. The other poem that came to mind, just because it does deal with like it's got these short lines, a lot of natural imagery, a lot of like rotting, as well as um, descriptions of growth and spring and a beloved, is the wonderful Indian St. Vincent Millay poem Elegy.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, which just ends with the the most like three of the most heartbreaking lines. If you're going to go for like a 3 line punch to the gut, all your lovely words are spoken. Once the ivory box is broken, beats the golden bird no more. Yeah, that's a great poem. Yeah, worth looking at that just cause.
Just cause. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a lot of reading. Yes. So
Yeah.
hopefully amongst all
Yeah. We
that,
gave you too much reading. But yeah, thank you for this. This is, yeah, I mean, I think this is a strong draft.
yeah, definitely keep going with it. It's got a good structure and it feels like it's got a good heart.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing to be careful about, I think, is, I mean, there's a lot to be careful, but like there's this little bit of a risk of patness
Mm-hmm.
or glibness
Mm-hmm.
to the contrast between what's happening in the world and what's happening with my feelings for you. There's just it's a risk. I mean, it's a risk you run that it's worth being aware of.
Yeah. Possibly
Yeah.
still completely worth taking.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's, yeah. Anytime you're going to write a lyric poem that might actually make somebody feel something, you're probably risking making somebody else cringe.
Always.
Um,
Every
yeah,
single time.
yeah.
All right. Should we look at the
Yeah. So
villanelle?
yeah.
So your advice was never to write a villanelle. Do I? Remember that
Oh, I
correctly?
think my advice was never to write a sestina,
Oh,
or
Sestina, that's
never to
right.
write a
No, I
never
agree
write.
with
I mean,
that.
sestinas are substantially more unpleasant to read than villanelles, I would
I've
say.
started skipping them. I've said if I
I
even
think you have
yeah
implicit permission to skip
yeah
them.
no
It's
just
it's you're a little bit irresponsible. I have one villanelle in my book. You totally can skip it. I think I put that in my acknowledgments even.
I don't think you did because it
Maybe I
took me
didn't
a
put it in
long
the
time to
acknowledgments.
figure
Maybe I
out
put
that
it in a note.
it's actually
Yeah.
it's a good one. But I didn't realize it was a villanelle for quite some time because I was too distracted by the story. Anyway,
Villanelles are also like, I feel like it's one of the poetic forms where I don't even get the little cringe of embarrassment when people put that in the title. Like if you put guzzle, like nobody has ever written like an English language guzzle without putting guzzle in the title, which makes me go crazy. But I feel like villanelle is like, it's so nakedly what it is. You couldn't disguise it if you wanted to.
that's
Robin Bain does
true.
a like has a one I vaguely remember that was did it okay. It came close to that, but
But what
yeah.
Q? So this is by Q, and it's
Mhm.
just titled Villanelle. And just before we get into it, I would suggest that I mean, there's opportunities to do a little bit more there. You could, like something Villanelle or Villanelle for someone, or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
anyway.
Just to imagine the table of contents. That's the question,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Somebody's
yeah.
flipping through the table of contents. They see the word villanelle by Q. That's there's no reason to flip to that unless they're villanelle, addicts. Brian likes villanelle, strangely.
Really,
Yeah,
Brian Platzer.
I think he thinks it's like efficient because there's just fewer lines because there's so much repetition. He can kind of skim it a little quicker. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Should I
do you
read
want to read
this
this one?
one?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Please.
Okay. Villanelle by Q after Richard Hugo. I own this, and I know it is not mine. My crooked limb, the flutter in my chest. What's me and what's inherited, I can't define. I researched my mother's ancestral line and found more cruelty than I'd have guessed. I own that, though I know it is not mine. My countrymen's despair, the asinine debate and Manichaean mass unrest, where I am in it all, I can't define. The river by my house, the ancient pine that catches blazing sunlight in the west. I own them, yet I know they can't be mine. My books, art, records, Bach to Patsy Cline, travels to Reykjavik and Budapest. What's me and what's a memory, I can't define. You and I fall apart and intertwine and separate again. And you suggest I own up to what you call me and mine. What's she, love? What was us? I can't define. Did I get that right? Manichaean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah. This was an example where the meter helps you.
Yes.
Um,
Although I feel there are some 6 feet lines and some 4 beat lines. Am I
Yeah, the meter
correct?
helps you in that line. There are some
Yeah.
problems with the meter elsewhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thought I'm curious, like what's your overall impression?
My overall impression is this is a very valiant attempt and very much worth continuing with, but we do need to either fix the metrical problems or just give up on it, which I don't think we should because I think there's some really strong, like, pentameter lines. And then there
Yeah.
are just some moments where it feels like we're reaching because you've got that ein sound. But then there's some really great choices, like asinine is good. That's a good one. Yeah. There's lots to like about it, but you're so exposed. Oh God, there's nowhere to hide. There's
Yeah,
nowhere to hide in this.
it's a very it's a very open-faced form and I do think that there's a you're a little bit too close to just having the meter perfect, but then in a lot of places it's really really not perfect, and so
Mm.
then if you make, yeah, I think I'm with you in that, like, either get it really tight or make it really clearly deliberately not a strictly regular
Yeah,
poem,
that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
be a
yeah.
bit messy. Because when I read it through the first time, I thought, oh, is it iambic pentameter or is it just kind of messy? But yeah, so for
Yeah.
my the ones that stood out to me, what's me and what's inherited, I can't define is 6 feet,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And I researched my mother's ancestral line is 4. I think that's
Yeah,
the
because
only
you end
ones.
up having three you have three syllable feet in there.
Mm,
I researched my mother's ancestral line,
yeah,
right? So you have a couple anapasts thrown in there.
yeah. Are there any
Um,
others that are particularly?
uh, the I don't love where I am in it all. You have
This is another check that I do, listeners. The like single
yes,
syllable
they're all
words,
so you have a bunch of monosyllables in a
monosyllables.
row, which a ton of monosyllables in a row make it hard to lock the meter into place because they're so easy. It's so easy for the meter to shift around. In this case, it's even worse because four of them in a row all begin with a vowel sound.
Where
So
I
it just
am
feels
in it
like
all.
it
Mm.
it's just it feels like really hard to get any kind of clear rhythm in that line. I own up to what you call me and mine. And so again, the monosyllables in there start to cause problems where it's not clear if you maybe have an anapast or what, like, it's just not a very clear meter.
And I think that's yeah, that stanza in general has
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's
some issues.
she, love, what was us, I can't define. I mean, so yeah, they're two, I have two big thoughts, but I want to let you say,
Um,
I want to let you finish giving your impression.
well, I wonder. Just as I'm thinking about it now, I'm wondering about the argument. The argument seems to be to me, there are these elements in my life and these influences on me that very much have an impact, and yet I don't own them. And then it wants at the end to
Yeah.
kind of use that idea and make a very important point about a relationship, but
Yeah.
I literally don't know from that last line, the last 2 lines, what Q is saying. And I do this
Yeah.
all the time, Q, where I'm too close to my subject. And then I think, oh, this is so obvious. And then I show it to Lou or to somebody else, and they're like, so
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
the at least if because I have the same problem with that last stanza, and the I can tell you the train of thought I have as I try to decipher it is you and I fall apart and intertwine and separate again, and so that you're intertwining, and that you use the word separate, and that they're just the two of you. It's you and I. Those three things suggest to me that you're dealing with a romantic, erotic, intimate relationship.
And off again,
And
on and off
yeah, on
again.
again, off again. It's rocky. There's problems, but like that's what it's like. It's that kind of relationship. It's between these two people, you and I, and then the last line, "What's she love?" And I think that's grammatically correct, but it reminds me of the line in because what is she? Right, she is a subjective case, right? But the problem is that in the Elements of Style, there's a great example where they say it's not always advisable to preserve the correctness of one's grammar when the tone when the expense of it is the tone. And the
Mm-hmm.
example he gives is the worst tennis player at the club is I. It's like it's okay. Go ahead and be grammatically incorrect there. It's a little clearer.
Yeah.
But then the real question I have is like, is that she the way Borges says he in Borges and I? Is he talking about himself in the third person? Is she talking about herself in the third person? Or is this she is in a third party, a third
Right.
actual person?
And if you're introducing that third party in the very last line of the poem, well,
Yeah.
I need more details.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. Yes. So like the thought I had, and I think it's true with all writing, like whether it's poetry or fiction or whatever, even essay writing, I find. But like with the villanelle or with any really demanding form, it's even like happens at a higher pressure. Is this toggling these sort of dual commitments that you have between what am I really getting at,
Mm.
and like how can I make it really work?
It's so hard.
And it's like, I
So
mean, it's
hard.
the thing that happens like in essays, it's like the very dumb, obvious version that I totally have to call myself out to account on all the time is like read something, think about it, slam my head against it for a while and kind of come up with a thesis. And then I'll say like, all right, well, let's get this thesis down. And then I'll be, hammering out the thesis, working out the examples. And at some point I start to like bend and squint and stretch to make the thesis work. And then I think like, whoa, wait, what am I, do I even think this? And you do that all the time with, right, poems.
Experience yesterday.
Yeah. Like finding rhyme words, filling up with like, I'm going to make the plot work for this novel. But like, wait, do I want this to be the thing I'm working? Like, I? And so villanelles are terrible that way because you're constantly thrown back on your earlier choices and forced to make everything fit. There's some wonderful metaphor, I can't find it, that Pedro Poitevin had. I want to see if I can find it because it's so good, about writing in extreme formal constraints.
I will say while you're looking for that these are smart. It's a smart choice of rhymes to work with, and Q has chosen really excellent words for the most part. I just have it like a tiny little issue with Patsy Cline because it feels like it sticks out a bit. But
what sticks out about it?
I don't believe that Q actually listens to Patsy Cline. It just feels like it's there for the rhyming, Like it's just a bit too convenient.
Yeah, I like the variety of modes of naming there. I barely listen to Bach a little bit, and I never listen to Patsy Cline, and I've been to Budapest but never Reykjavik, and I don't collect records, so I don't feel like I could say anything authoritatively about any of this. But I like the theory, at least, of these lines. I like how they're constructed. I think like you could maybe argue about my books, art, records, Bach to Patsy Cline. So you sort of expand on the records there in a way that you're not quite with others. But yeah, I don't know. I'll defer to you on whether that's credible or not. I don't know. Q, are you going to write in angrily to tell us you do listen to Patsy Cline?
Well, but even if you do, right?
Even if you do, maybe it doesn't seem like you do. I don't know.
But also it doesn't, to what you're just saying earlier, what's me and what's a memory I can't define. Well, you can put the record of Bach and Patsy Cline on any time you want to and kind of like.
Yes.
I know what Q means.
And this is the thing about the repetends, and the second one in particular, because you have these, this is like I'm very much a student of Stallings and Josh Megan on this question. I own this and I know it is not mine. What's me and what's inherited I can't define. And then there's different variations of these two repetends that's toggle or return throughout the poem, but they vary a fair amount, and the second one of those varies the most. My personal preference is for exact repetition with repetends and villanelles and then triolets and triolets and cecinas. Not
for no other reason that you could just like copy paste like.
Yeah, it's certainly easier when you can. If you can make one work, it's easier. I also, reading through these, I just wanted I wanted them to be really metrically crisp, and I wanted them to feel credible. And that's the question: is like, it's got to work. Which you've given yourself this tricky puzzle, right? I think I can't remember if I find the thing, but it was like Pedro Poitevin was saying, like, if like writing a sonnet is like solving a Rubik's cube, then writing like a left-handed sonnet or a palindrome is like solving a Rubik's cube in a straitjacket, right? And a villanelle is sort of somewhere in the middle of that. You're constantly, every movement punishes the movement you're trying to make in the other direction. But I think that, I got a really good email a while ago, as with the Joel one from forever ago that it took me ages to respond to. I do eventually want to. It's from Jessica, and she was asking about when it is a good idea to break the form that you have established in a poem.
Oh, great question.
And I think like I have thoughts, and I'm excited to do an episode on that. But like it came to mind here again because I think there are cases where you can, like, my instinct is the repetends should be exact unless it really, really works. And right here, it just feels like a lot of it is sort of like is a little mushy. It's sort of like kind of close, or it just feels like, wait, what are you saying? I So I did the thing. I'm very glad you annoyingly. I'm very glad we did the other poem first, and you annoyingly rewrote it because I rewrote this one.
Okay, great. Great.
So we could both be huge assholes
Yep.
and presumptuously rewrite our listeners' poems.
Yep.
But yeah, I had a thought about that. Oh, the House on the Hill is a. I want to say that's a trimeter or tetrameter villanelle. I mean, obviously, like particularly because of the kind of litany of objects and the scope and the places, it's very hard not to, call to mind one art. But the House on the Hill is a Robinson villanelle in either
Okay.
trimeter or tetrameter. That's good. It's different, but it has a sort of like actually like it's not. It may be worth both of these poets looking at it because it's a good use of vagueness and like an effective use of a vague repetend
Hmm.
that still feels like it's talking about something that kind of has the ring of truth to it. So I can read you my revision. I
Yeah,
don't have a
great.
title. Yeah, but here's my obnoxious, presumptuous revision. I should also say that it's written after Richard Hugo, and totally irresponsibly, I know next to nothing about Richard Hugo's poetry. So in
No,
fact,
I know
my guess
nothing.
is
Yeah,
we should just right now look up Richard Hugo Villanelle.
that'd be smart.
Yeah, so it looks like he's got one called "The Freaks at Spurgeon Road Field." Boy, that's all right.
Maybe this isn't the one that
Woof,
he's
woof.
responding to.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it is or not, but it's a strong first line, strong medicine, I'll say. The Freaks at Spurgeon Road Field by Richard Hugo. And I should say, I don't know if this is the one she's responding to. It's just the one that came up when I typed in Richard Hugo Villanelle.
Okay.
All right. The Freaks at Spurgeon Road Field. The dim boy claps because the others clap. The polite word handicapped is muttered in the stands. Isn't it wrong the way the mind moves back? One whole day I sit, contrite, dirt, L.A., Union Station, 46, sweating through last night. The dim boy claps because the others clap.
Whoa.
Score 5-3, pitcher fading badly in the heat. Isn't it wrong to be or not be spastic? Isn't it wrong the way the mind moves back? I'm laughing at a neighbor girl beaten to scream by a savage father, and I'm ashamed to look. The dim boy claps because the others clap. The score is always close, the rally always short. I've left more wreckage than a quake. Isn't it wrong the way the mind moves back? The afflicted never cheer in unison. Isn't it wrong the way the mind moves back to stammering pastures where the picnic should have worked? The dim boy claps because the others clap. I
Can't be
love
that
the
one.
repetends. It can't be that one. It seems like so far, and it also seems like I don't know. I feel like Q's poem is more accomplished than this. This has a lot of great stuff in it, but it feels a little bit like a mess. And I like both of the repetends a lot. The dim boy claps because the others clap, and isn't it wrong the way the mind moves back?
Yeah, that's
Are
really
really
great.
good
Yeah.
repetends.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm not going to try to take on this poem right now. I don't know. Maybe there's another poem by Richard Hugo that she's thinking of. I confess I'm not a big Richard Hugo head, but yeah. All right. So here's my pass at this, and I unfortunately I didn't write it out. I just wrote my notes in out of order, so maybe a little stilted. Yeah. Okay. Actually, I think I'm gonna. All right. Okay. Here's my attempt to solve the Rubik's Cube. I own it, though I know it isn't mine. My crooked limb, the flutter in my chest. What part of this is me I can't define. I read about my mom's ancestral line and found more cruelty than I could have guessed. I own it, though I know it isn't mine. My countrymen's despair, the asinine debates and Manichaean mass unrest. What part of this is me I can't define. The river by my house, the ancient pine that catches blazing sunlight in the west. I own it, though I know it isn't mine. My books, art, records, Bach to Patsy Cline, the trips to Reykjavik and Budapest. What part of this is me I can't define.
Mm.
We fall apart, and then we intertwine. We separate again, and you suggest I own it, though I know it isn't mine. What part of this is me I can't define.
There you go. The Matthew Buckley Smith treatment.
Yeah, and I think the question is sort of like how close are those revisions of the repetends getting to the heart of the matter as you feel it? Because I
Hmm.
think at the moment it's not totally obvious, to me at least, precisely where to put the finger on the pulse of this poem.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good way to put it, actually. I do think, like, I was wondering what you would do with the words "I own this," or and you went for "I
Hmm.
own it," and obviously, you're doing it first pass revision that you weren't asked to
Yeah, yeah,
do,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I suspect that if you were writing this poem, you would never use a phrase like that just because it is so like corrupted by like 21st century vernacular. Like, own it.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, oh.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also looked at I own this, and I think that works structurally as well. Yeah, that's probably a good call because my instinct was that I own this feels just a hair more formal. And if you're going to
Mm.
say something over and over and over again, my instinct is to make it more approachable. But yeah, if own it is gonna catch in the ear too much, then I think it's probably better to avoid it. You're right.
Yeah, there might be some other way because that's, yeah, to your point, that is kind of the emotional heart of the poem. That's the argument of the poem.
Yeah.
Like, you have to take care of this thing. It has to be part of your life and consciousness, even though you don't actually own it. It's, yeah. So it's just probably worth thinking through, like, what specifically do we mean there? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tricky, tricky.
What's the really true fit emotionally?
Mm.
You have to kind of go back and forth to like, all right, because my instinct is like this is so close to being a really tightly built villanelle that my inclination would be go ahead and get it really correct,
Yeah, you
get it
can.
really
Yeah.
crisp and tight.
Hmm.
But then the tension is you have to continually go back and say like, okay, is this true to what really feels true to me?
Yeah, and that's
Because
kind of
again,
the fun part.
you know where this poem really, you know where the true center of the poem is, and we don't.
Mm. Mm. And that's the fun part of getting to this point in revision is you've got a good structure, you've got great rhyme words, you've got good ideas, like most of it is there, but then you do have to do that really final like few rounds of sanding and then just see like is it still what I wanted it to be or have I now started to make compromises in the service of the meter or the rhyme or some other thing. But yeah, like for such a straitjacket, Q is
Yeah,
very, very nearly wriggled out.
yeah, I think it's quite. Yeah, this is quite impressive. Yeah, good job, Q. These are really good drafts. Yeah, well done.
Well done, everyone.
Send in,
Thank
yeah,
you.
send in more. You're welcome to some. I've had a little. I think one or two repeat submissions, and you can repeat. You can send in more. Until we get really flooded with them, and then we have to start figuring things out. Sign up for the secret show, SLEERICKETS.substack.com, and if you are already signed up, consider sending in a poem.
We
Yeah.
love it.
And it's so much nicer with another person. And Alice is the. Do you? I can't tell if you're the nice one and I'm the mean one usually in our pairing. But then Jonathan told me that I made Cameron be really nice, and he was really surprised. But
Oh, it was
maybe that was just relatively nice.
no, I mean I was delighted to hear Cameron's listener crit episode. I was really like impressed with everything he said. So it's just a fun thing to do. It's just super
Yeah,
fun. Like it probably just brings out the best in all of us, I guess. But
yeah. We
yeah.
started with reality TV, and I was going to mention the other show that has been on a lot in our house is the Great British Baking Show, and I was
Mm,
trying to identify, which is universally beloved, but I was trying to identify like why is this so different
mm.
than other reality shows, even like competition reality. Like,
Because everybody knows it's a joke. Everybody there understands that it is a complete joke.
they're all decent. They're all being decent people.
Yeah, they're
None
nice
of
to
them is
each
an
other.
asshole. And
No.
they're like, they take responsibility. They're like, yeah, that wasn't my best work. I probably deserve to get kicked off this week. I mean, like, they're just decent. And my thought was like, in my, Matt Wall had brought up ages ago the possibility of doing like a poetry show of that kind. And I thought like, that's the way to do it, right? It's like,
Yeah.
have people not be pricks to you. Don't cultivate shittiness, and like let everybody take it seriously and try to do really good work, but then
Mm.
just be decent people. And if I recall, there's not really a prize.
You
Like the
know,
prize is like a handshake at
no, yeah,
best,
you get an apron that people are
Yeah.
just like really happy to have. It's just credit. But actually, now that you've said that, that makes me think like I would really love to do something like that just as a one-off. I don't really know how I would structure it, but I'd love to do something Slee Ricketts adjacent with
Yeah.
listeners and just be like, okay, we're all going to get online at like this time. We're going to have a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
prompt, and then within like 60 or 90 minutes, we're all going to read our poems. It's like, I don't know. I
I
think
think I
there's,
think it
yeah,
could be I think it could be really fun. And part, as Joanna points out, like part of the fun is
you're going to
getting
suck
little
at it.
glimpses into some of the personal, like you do get a little bit of a sense of who these people are, and they tend to
Mm,
be like, again, it's so wholesome, it's
mm,
like the like sweet like accountants gay couple, but they're one of them's a really dedicated baker, like the like
yeah,
lovely alopecia girl who's like a brilliant like chemist and
yeah,
just loved, so like you get a little sense of there being human beings, but also they all really take it seriously trying to do good work. And they're
yeah.
nice to each other. They respect each other's work.
Yeah, because they're all up against the same impossible task. I think that's the
Yeah.
thing, is like it's a very flat playing field in some ways. And even if someone's like got an advantage in one challenge, somebody else will have it in another. It's rare, like I've seen like 3 episodes of it, but it seems rare that there's one person who sticks out as being really good across all the challenges. Hmm. Yeah.
I have thought about how this could work, and
Okay.
I don't know, but if it would be fun, like it feels like it could be fun.
I think it could be really fun. Like, I think
Yeah.
anything like this, my instinct is always like, just do it once.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah, yeah,
get
yeah, yeah,
excited
yeah.
and be like,
Commit to doing one
we're
thing
doing a new
once.
thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we could have like quite a fun little,
My impulse is that for something like this where you have a lot of voices involved is some form of video.
oh
Because I think
yeah.
you need to be able to see some. I think it's going to get too confusing otherwise, and I think people also just like being able to orient that way.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right. All right.
Yeah,
Let's
something to think about.
tentatively we are thinking about
Yeah, what
Sleary
would
Kids
yeah
Bake
like
Off.
what would that yeah I think there could be a way to make it like a fun thing that would be also entertaining and would actually be like really deal with poetry and
Yeah.
the quality of poetry in a meaningful
And
way.
who knows, maybe somebody writes something that they love and they get to keep it and publish it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Unlike the Great British Bake Off, it doesn't get eaten at the end.
That's right. Rarely
Um,
does a poem get eaten at the end.
great.
Cool.
Shall we take a break and then
Yes.
talk about autism?
Sounds good.
All right.
So there you go. 2 wonderful listener poems. Thank you, Q. Thank you, S. I really hope that you both keep going with those drafts. I'd love to see your next version if you want to share. I am about to go put my face on because I'm going to go and see an ex-colleague and try not to appear too desperate about work. I really, really hope she has some kind of work for me to do. Anyway, in the meantime, just before I go, I'm going to read that poem that I mentioned of Matthew's from his book Midlife. I assume you have a copy of this. You really should get a copy of it. This is the poem that I mentioned that has just a very smart way to get to rhyme self with elf. And I'm going to read the whole thing. My copy of Midlife lives right next to my desk. Actually, I have 2 copies. I have to keep one up this end of the house and one down the other end. This poem is called Sleeping Dogs. When we hear the news your neighbour shot herself, I'm slow to link her name to the smiling face we see every Christmas at your parents' place. and each morning on our fridge, dressed as an elf. Strange that two girls who grew up a block apart share little but a birthplace anymore. Just a spare key that you kept to her front door, and an old phone number you still know by heart. These days, you've got me, to love you, not to die, to try to keep in warm, vague, tender doubt some certainties that we don't talk about, to wash the plates and stow them when they're dry, or just to shake the water from a knife and take you in my dripping arms for now, shushing the questions gathered at your brow about the kind of person who ends her life. For you, I keep that silence. For your friend, I offer to the silence where she went the hope that what she did is what she meant, and what she knew of pain is at an end. I don't know, Matthew. I think you could have gone darker. Honestly. If you'd like to hear a little bit more from this conversation, as I said, it gets pretty strange, but I think useful, actually, on balance. Go to SLEERICKETS.substack.com. Pop in your email address. You will get a week's access to the secret show for free. We would love to have you over there, and that means that you can submit listener poems if you would like. You can reach Matthew, as always, at sleerickets@gmail.com. And with any luck, we will all be speaking to you again very soon. Until then.